Get ready to rock radio.
Coming from London, the brand new revised Peter Ross Show.
Hello and welcome. Today, our very special guest is a man who's written songs for the past 5 decades. His songs have been recorded by some of the most influential rock bands ever. Our very special guest today, talking about his songs and experiences, is Russ Ballard. So welcome along, Russ Ballard with us today. Now, you first started out in a band, Unit 4+2.
Well, I started before that, actually.
Right.
I started before. I mean, I turned professional when I was 16. I was with an English singer called Adam Faith. When he was just 22, I was 16.
Right.
And yeah, I was in the part of the Roulettes. It was Adam Faith and the Roulettes from the mid-60s.
He was an absolute character, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, we were very good friends. We became very close.
I remember having lunch in a restaurant in London, and he had 2 women, one on either table. And he went from one table to the other, and back to the other.
That's very him.
I thought when I grow up, I'd like to be like that.
Yeah, no, but we did have a lot of fun together. You know, I was with him for two and a half years on the road.
Right.
But after that, you know, we did Roger Daltrey, the first Roger Daltrey album together at Roger's house,
right,
which he produced, funnily enough, the Giving It All Away, which I played on.
Right.
Giving It Away album, and then we did the Leo Sayer Show Must Go On.
Right.
I played banjo on that. We produced his third record, which was Moonlighting. Do you remember Moonlighting?
Yes.
Moonlighting. Funnily enough, I'd just been in the studio because a friend said, "Oh, you've got a Leo Sayer gold disc here." I said, "For Moonlighting." I said, "Yeah." I played most of the things on it, but we produced the album, Adam and I, and I just said that we produced that in 13 days. From, you know, we had the songs already, but we produced it. You could never do it now, but we produced it from start to finish and mixed it in 13 days.
When you look back at the time that you spent, obviously you were with Adam Faith, then you were with Unit 4+2. Was Concrete and Clay? Was that you were hit with Concrete and Clay? Was that you?
Yeah, I mean, I played. Yeah, in fact, originally they were called Unit 4. It wasn't Unit 4+2. They were just called Unit 4.
Right.
And they released a single before, which was called Greenfields, I think it was called. They released this single they were on Decca, and it wasn't a hit, but we were very close. I saw them one night in a pub. They were rehearsing in a pub, and they said, "Oh, Brian Parker, who's a friend of ours, Brian's written a great tune." He said, and Tom's written the words. Will you come and listen to it? See what you think of it. It's called Concrete and Clay, and they played it in this little. It was like tiny hall in the back of a pub, and they just played this tune, and what an amazing song! It was just wonderful, you know. And the next I heard, their manager phoned me and said, "Will you play? We'd like you to play on it," you know, because they didn't have a drummer, they didn't have a bass player, and they did have a bass player. They didn't have a drummer, they didn't have a full-time drummer, and they didn't have a guitar player, lead guitar player.
Yeah.
So I was rowed in to play on it. We got to the studio, which was it was called Recorded Sound in Marble Arch,
right,
which turned into Nova. This was, you know, obviously years ago,
yeah.
And I had the flu, actually, funnily enough, and I'd arranged that I would do it. So someone came and took me up to London, and I played on it, and it was just one of the first takes. I didn't even really know where I was going. I was playing that do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. You to me are sweet as roses in, but do-do-do-do-do. I was throwing that thing in, and to be truthful, it was I didn't know where I played that guitar solo, but I didn't know where I was in the song. I was just sort of like finding my way around the keyboard, because I was still trying to find where the chords were changing, and it became number one. There were two versions in the top 20 in America. Their version was in the top 20, and a guy called Eddie Rambo. But I always say it goes to show the power of a good song.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that it was recorded. It's very scrappy sound, very scruffy. But I decided to put the bell on it. You know, the bell. I wanted a triangle because it had that kind of Burt Bacharach ding,
yeah.
Ding, ding, that sort of sound.
Yeah.
And he always used to put a triangle on, you know, Bacharach and David things. So I said to the boys, "Do you have a triangle?" And no one had a triangle. So I went out into the reception of the studio, and they had one of those little bells that you ring for service, you know. One of those little...
Yeah.
So I took it into the studio and just hit it with a drumstick, and Bob Henry, who was the drummer, good friend of mine, we were the plus two. We stood in front of the mic and just went ding, 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 ding.
That's the way it's meant to be.
We were working with Adam Faith. We were doing things like Thank You. You're probably too young to remember. Thank You, Lucky Stars. We were doing things like Ready, Steady, Go.
Yeah, I remember
5 O'Clock Club, Cracker Jack, and all this kind of stuff. And often the Zombies were on, and I remember meeting Rod and we shared a dressing room at Ready, Steady, Go. All the Zombies, there were about 3 bands, the Zombies, we were in there as well, and another band. But, you know, we got to chatting, Colin Blunstone and Chris White, we came from Hertfordshire as well, you know, so they were pretty close to us. And we became good mates. We used to go and play football together on Thursday and stuff, and when it came to, he split the Zombies, and then he phoned me and said, I'm going to start another band, you know, do you fancy joining me? And Jim Rothford and Bob Henry. And, that lasted for 3 years.
I didn't know. I made a mistake the other week. I played Hold Your Head Up, and I thought that you'd actually written part of it, but you hadn't, have you?
Everyone thinks I wrote it as well.
But you sang on it, though, didn't you?
But we all put our peneth into that because Chris White came up with the idea. We used to do Time of the Season, which was the Zombie song. It's the time of the season. Yeah. But we used to slow it down and go ding, 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 in the middle, ding, 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 ding. And Chris White said, we ought to write a song around that feel. It's such a good feel. He came in one day and he had the riff. He had the guitarist. Dan, 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 dan.
I spoke to Jonathan King.
Yeah.
And he was saying that it was the fact that the Zombies helped him, or the producers of the Zombies, because they slowed his first song, Everybody Goes to the Moon, they slowed it right down, and he said without them doing that, he certainly wouldn't have been successful, and it wouldn't have started his career. Absolutely, when you think back, you know.
Yeah, Jonathan, I used to do a lot of Jonathan's records.
Did you?
Yeah, I did the Weathermen, do you remember? It's the same old song.
Yeah.
I did a few things with him, yeah. He used to send things to me, and I used to go in the studio, and when he was having his hot period,
yes,
he wanted to form a super group as well. He had John Entwistle at one time. John Entwistle, somebody from Def Leppard.
Yes.
He had the drummer from Iron Maiden.
Yes.
And I can't remember the singer he had, but they were called Gog Magog, and he recorded 2 of my songs with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So really, when you look back at your career and you look at how many people you've been involved with, it really is. I mean, are you satisfied with what you've achieved?
I think if you're passionate, you're never going to be. I mean, you just want to keep seeing what you can. You know, it gets interesting. Somebody said to me the other day, you know, how is it writing now? Right now, I said the thing is, I think you've become more picky as you get older. I said the passion hasn't lessened at all. I'm still like a 16-year-old. I'm still that sort of keen. And you still now I'm trying to find different ways to do it. You know, sort of finding new ways to keep you stimulated. Like the lyric is so important to me, to find the right lyric to write to. And I think you go further and you're trying to find a new way to say the same old thing. You know. Well,
I agree with you there. And if you look back at some of you mentioned Burt Bacharach, Hal David. You know, in a lot of cases, maybe like yourself as well, you don't get the credit because you're the songwriter.
Yeah, that's true.
And I always like to look at the songs and look at the writers and put them together and understand how it happened. How did you first then? So after Argent and the success of that, of course, you wrote God Gave Rock and Roll to Us. How did you then go on from there? I mean, is a solo career, or did you just say, well, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to write. What actually happened then?
Well, the thing is, I intended, when I left Argent, I wanted to get a band together, go on the road, and just... Argent sort of made... when we were on the stage, there were a lot of long solos. It became quite jazzy, you know, when I wanted to be more rocky and more like that, really. And I wanted to go on the road. I made an album myself, playing everything myself. But I intended to get a band together. I did get a band together. I went to the States and did a short tour. Did like a 3-week tour of America. Did the Bottom Line. I did the Roxy in LA and things like that.
So we're talking, what year are we talking here now?
76.
Right, okay, yeah.
This was 76, and I intended to go on the road. I was writing, getting some hits, because Three Dog Night had covered 2 of my songs.
Yeah.
So I was earning good money. I was able to sort of survive doing that.
How did you come up with that song "Liar"? Then how did you think about that? What was behind that?
The song, you know, Rod said to me, "Have you got any songs?" Because he was having success writing, like with the Zombies and stuff. Yeah. And I wanted to write more because years before I joined Adam Faith, I wrote a song for the Shadows.
Oh,
the very first thing I ever wrote, the Shadows recorded it.
Which one was that?
It was called The Lost City.
Right.
And I did it as a demo. I'd never been in a studio before, and I had this little band with my brother, and Bob Henrik was in the band, the drummer. Buster Meikle from the Unit 4+2 was in the band as well. He was in the band. This is when I was 14. So I wrote this instrumental, and we booked Regional Sound in Denmark Street in London to put it down. You know, we put Buster sang a song on the other side, but we did this instrumental. I knew Cliff Richard's brother-in-law and played it to him. He said, "What have you been doing?" I said, "We've been in the studio and I've written this instrumental, played it to him." He said, "You know, that'd be great for the Shadows." And they recorded it 4 years later. It was 4 years later. By then I joined Adam Faith. I got home from Manchester one night, and my mum said the Shadows music publisher, Harry Waters, was phoned and said he wants to speak to you. He wants to speak to you about the Shadows. I thought, wow, what's happening here? Yeah. And he said, "They've recorded your song." I said, I didn't even know they'd heard it. He said, "Well, they've recorded it, and basically we want you to give it a title." I said, "Well, I called it Atlantis." And they said, "Yeah, but they've already called it one called Atlantis." Because in the meantime, you know, in between, they'd recorded a tune called Atlantis. So he said, "We've got to change the title." So I said, "Oh, Lost City." And I mean, it was on their Sound of the Shadows album, and so, you know, that had done well. So, I mean, I'd had a few bits and pieces that were doing all right, and so it allowed me to come off the road. But I intended to go on the road, but my wife at the time had a baby. It was my son. And I found it so difficult. I went on the road. I was doing stuff. I was going to America doing bits of writing and doing, but I missed the family so much, you know.
And do you find that it gives you inspiration being with the family?
Yeah, well, it does. I mean, it gives also a lot of inspiration being on the road. When you sort of travel, you find, I don't know what it is, there's something about traveling that you sort of gather ideas, you gather lyrical ideas, and something. I used to come back flying with ideas for songs. You know, you asked me about Liar. Well, Rod said to me, "Do you have any songs?" And I just wrote 3 songs for the album. I wrote Schoolgirl, I wrote a song called Lonely Hard Road, and I wrote Liar. Right. But I wanted to do something like a blues. It was like a commercial kind of blues, but it had that kind of edgy, you know. Ain't that what you said? You told, you know, I won't ever leave while you want me to stay. Nothing you could do could tell me. Ain't that what you said? Ain't that what you said? Ain't that what you said? Liar, liar. You know, it was that element of surprise. I always tried to put that element of surprise in there somewhere, you know.
I was listening to some of your catalogue today, earlier on, and I played Colin Blunstone, I Don't Believe in Miracles. And you know, it has been, you know, when you play something and it gets into your mind and you just keep... How did you come up with that song?
Well, you see, that's when I was writing these tunes. I was still with Argent. That was 1971. That came from the heart. Like, it's a very strange thing about that song and God Gave Rock and Roll to You was sort of went kind of hand in hand. One's very negative, which is I Don't Believe in Miracles, and the other one's very positive. But it's really telling the story of that 9 months of my life. a year of my life, I guess, more than a year. But I was writing every day.
Right.
Every single day I was writing, and my mother went into hospital.
Right.
This was 68.
Right.
This was 1968. She went into hospital with this illness. She had cancer, and my dad, I didn't realise she told me she had an ulcer, and we drove her into the hospital with my dad. I mean, on the way back, my dad said, "Your mum's got cancer." And it felt dreadful, you know, but she was getting over that. She came out. She was getting over it. She was doing all right. And then my dad went in with a prostate operation and the heart illness. And I could see, I was very close to them, you know, and I could see that they, you could see their mortality.
Yes.
And, you know, somebody else so close to.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're the people in your life that you know they have unconditional love. It's when you have your own children, you realise what you mean to your mum and dad.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And so I could see that part of my. Well, I was living with them. I did, you know, wasn't.
And they were seeing your success at that time, were they?
Yeah, well, they were seeing. I think they were pretty proud of me. You know, they could see I was on my feet, and I was financially doing all right. But one day I just sat at the keyboard and I wrote this song, and it came from the heart. And I was thinking about, you know, I thought you might show your face, have the grace to tell me what it was like a cry. It was a cry to God, really, to be truthful.
Yeah.
But I believe that somewhere there's someone who's gonna light the way when things go wrong. I tried to make it positive at the end, although I said, but I don't believe in miracles. And everyone was saying to me, when I recorded the demo, I remember the American engineer saying to me, yeah, but you've got to put at the end, you've got to put, but I do believe in miracles. I said, no, I don't. And I was so negative, everything then. I recorded it, and I didn't even play it to Argent because I thought it was too soft.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like it, they'd laugh at it or whatever. I played it, Rod said I loved it.
Yeah.
And said I'll play it to Colin, and Colin loved it, and we went in the I played piano on that.
Yeah. Oh.
I played piano and did Rod, Jim and I, and was it Rod, Jim and Colin and me did the backing vocals. But that was from the heart, you know, and I went into a bit of a low, but after that, you know, when I came out of it, I came out of that low, I came into sort of like being reborn. Then I wrote God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
Yeah.
Which was sort of like, it was just like being reborn.
One song that surprises me, and which I like, by the way, is the song in 1975 that was a hit for Hello.
I know you're going to say that.
New York Groove.
Well, I made it up in the studio.
Right.
And my friend, my brother told me about this little group who were, you know, just 16. I went to see him with a friend of mine, who was a friend of the Zombies as well, fun enough, David Blaylock.
Yeah.
And he became their manager, and he said, well, can you write something for them? 1975, I produced an album for Roger Daltrey.
Yeah, the McVicar album.
This was the Ride a Rock Horse album.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry.
And on the way, I went to New York to master it. And on the way there, I thought, well, I haven't been to New York, you know, since I left Argent. And it seemed like, and I thought, this is a good title. And I wrote it down on the plane. I'm back in the New York groove, and I just kept that title in my head. Then when I got back, we booked a studio, and all I had was the title. But I knew I wanted to do something with a bow diddly beat. I wanted the bow diddly don't. I had a harmonica, a super vamper, and we went in the studio, and I made the thing up in the studio because I was given a lot of free time in the studio.
Right.
I got the guy to stamp on a trestle table, so it went.
Yeah, you can hear that.
Built the thing up, you know, built the middle. So I said I want a kind of a middle section, which is probably the first rap. That was 1975.
Yeah.
Here I am again in the city with a fistful of dollars, and baby, you better believe, you know, I'm spitting everything in.
Get ready to rock radio, music you want to hear.